Oh, that Volvo has an intercooler. Huh. Oh, this one doesn't. Interesting. What's up, guys? It's Drifts and Lifts here. Alright, so today's video, you guys mentioned in the comments of last video that you don't mind just chilling videos of me doing kind of whatever. So I figured I'd use this day. I'm going to get all the things ready on Miss Huff for the drift event this weekend. So there's not really a whole lot to do. As you can see, the title of this video is what is the best oil. Well, I haven't made the video yet. I'm filming it right now. I'm probably going to make the title, what is the best oil for a B230 FT or a Volvo Redblock. So I actually need to do an oil change on Miss Huff because Villain Sportsland, that was a 3-day event. And so that's pretty hard on oil, like 3 straight days of limiter, really high temperatures because it was like scorching hot in Walla Walla when we went to that event. So lots and lots of heat buildup. Heat is generally the enemy of oil. Well, I mean, like overheat, over time it'll break oil down. Another thing is Miss Huff is really rich at idle. Like it's actually letting through a lot of unburnt fuel. So a lot of that fuel is actually going down the cylinder walls, and eventually over time that will dilute your oil. And I've heard of actually that, people getting rod knocked from that because their oil was so diluted with fuel that it lost a lot of its lubricating properties. So it's just a good idea after like that much drifting on a car to just change the oil. I haven't done that yet, so I kind of wanted to see your guys' opinions on oil. It's a pretty, quite heavily touched subject as far as that goes. A lot of people have different opinions on it. I'm gonna say my personal opinion on it and kind of what oil I use. So generally, for any Redblock that I have, regardless of if it's winter or summer, I like to go with the 1540 diesel oil, whether that be non-synthetic or synthetic. Depends on the car that I'm doing it on. Miss Huff, because it has like a new head that's all fresh, and the bottom end, all the seals are all done on it. I do go with synthetic motor oil just because it is better. Synthetic is higher quality, it lasts a little longer, that kind of thing. And you know what I mean, if you have all the seals replaced, you may as well do that because you shouldn't have an oil leak anyways. A lot of the problem with synthetic is a lot of people, they say don't go to synthetic if your car's been ran on conventional oil its whole life. And the reason for that is because all these seals, the crank seal, the cam seals, the distributor seals, all the seals on the motor essentially, those all get oil crud buildup over time, right? The conventional oil is a lot more common to do that. Synthetic oil, you won't have a problem with like oil deposits getting all crusty and hardening on spots. Like the PCV box on these cars, sorry, going off topic a bit here, but the reason that they get so built up with, you always hear people, you got to clean your PCV box. I've actually done a video on this before. You got to clean your PCV box on a Volvo Redblock because they get all built up with a bunch of crud, and eventually they become plugged, and then your crankcase pressure cannot relieve itself through that. So the reason because of that is people run conventional oil in these cars their whole life. If you run a synthetic from day one, you actually will never have a PCV problem. You'll never have buildup in there or anything. So that's a little pointer. Now, the thing is, if you switch over to a synthetic, because of the detergents in it, it'll actually over time clean out that oil crud. And some people, I haven't really noticed this too much, but some people have, when they switch to a synthetic, they've gotten crazy oil leaks out of their cars because it cleaned away all that crud that was kind of holding in the seal, right? So that's kind of all I have to say about that though. If your car, is pretty fresh, it's got all new seals, you're going to be better off running synthetic. It is just a better oil at the end of the day. So in Goldie, for example, I run 1540 synthetic. So now oil brand, that's a whole nother thing. So if we go over here, this is what I got from Miss Huff today, and this is actually a 2050 oil. The reason I'm doing this is because when you're drifting, especially with this car, it's revving so high, 7,500 RPM rev limit. There's a lot of heat buildup. I do not have an oil cooler on this car, so this oil is taking quite the beating, right? And you know, we're drifting for, like, we're hot lapping. You keep on it, and these motors are getting hot, real hot. So this 2050 synthetic is going to be really, you know, it's going to have a lot of resistance to heat breakdown and that kind of thing. So I like Lucas Oil products because at our local Lordco, they always sell them for really cheap. It's kind of their in-house brand. So like this was like $8 a liter, I think, for a 2050 synthetic. Not too bad. Pretty reasonable there. So all said and done, I think this oil change will cost me, you know, Redblock takes exactly 4 liters. Well, actually, it's actually 3.8, I believe. But if you have a turbo model and you drain the oil cooler and stuff, they end up usually taking about 4 liters. So yeah, what I'm gonna do actually is over here, I have also a Lucas oil stabilizer, heavy duty oil stabilizer. So this stuff's really good. For old motors, it just kind of thickens up your oil and makes it, again, more resistant to heat and dilution and that kind of thing. So what I'm going to do today is run 3 liters of the 2050, and then I actually have just a leftover jug of 1540 that I'm just going to use a little bit of, and then probably a half a liter of this Lucas oil stabilizer. So that'll probably do the trick. I didn't get a filter. You should always change your filter. This is literally like taking a poo and not wiping your ass. But I'm gonna take a poo and not wipe my ass because I didn't buy a filter. I forgot today. And this filter is brand new, other than the one event. So this oil is most likely not going to be that dirty for say. It's going to be more diluted with fuel. So that's the reason I'm changing it. Not as big of a deal. That filter probably hasn't got as dirty as it possibly could. So yeah, let's do that. I'm going to drain the oil out of this thing. I'm trying to think if there's any other details about oil changes on Volvos that I should mention. Yeah, like some people do run 1030 and that kind of thing. I've never had a problem with running 1540. It's not too thick. These are solid lifter vehicles, so you know you can run thick oil. It's not like a hydraulic lifter, so not a big deal. If anything, it's gonna help with that heat dissipation the best. So what we're gonna do now is put the oil in. Obviously, you guys know how to do an oil change. I'm not gonna show you how to do that. And then we're gonna do a couple other little things on this car. So I've decided for this event, last event, I didn't have any passenger seats in this car. So part of the fun of going to a drift event a lot of the time is taking passengers for ride-alongs. You know, a bunch of different people get to feel a first-hand experience of how your car is and your driving and stuff. So what I'm gonna do is install a rear seat in Mishaf. And the reason I'm doing that instead of a front seat is, one, because if you look over there, the door bar is removed from that door. It got smashed out. So that's not cool. You can't run passengers if you have no door bar. The other reason, actually this is just kind of, I thought of this last minute, is that if you have a passenger in the back, it's actually better for your weight distribution of the car. So that's kind of cool. And in the back here, I have door bars, so the passengers will be safe. What I'm gonna do is probably run one middle seat belt. I'm not gonna be taking whole carloads of people because Mishaf is an NA motor and it doesn't have a whole ton of power at the end of the day. And I like to keep it light, so what we're gonna do is install a middle seat belt and these seats. Also, the good thing about a rear seat is these are far lighter than a front seat of a Volvo 740 sedan. So like, yeah, I'd say both of these, like the whole rear seat together is probably, I don't know, 20 pounds. It really doesn't weigh a whole lot. Whereas the front seat is probably like 70 pounds. Those things get pretty heavy. So that combined with the seat belt, we're not gaining any substantial weight that I'm gonna notice. And I'll be able to take passengers again. So it'll be kind of like the Mishaf drift taxi because people will be sitting in the back. Be kind of sweet. So all right, let's do this. We'll do oil change first, and then we will install those seats and see how it looks.
Oh, give me more. Oh yeah, more.
there we go. So I did 3 liters of the 2050, then I put about a half a liter of the Lucas oil stabilizer, and then a little bit of the 1540 that I had laying around. Mind you, that 1540 is also a full synthetic. I don't think it's the end of the world if, say, you're in a pinch and you had to mix a synthetic oil with a conventional, but I'm gonna assume it's probably best to mix synthetic with synthetic. As far as weights go, it's not gonna hurt anything to mix thicker weight with the less weight. They're kind of gonna merge together and become something in between. So mine's pretty much, you know, 2050 with the stabilizer combined with that 1540. Whatever, it's some oil in there, it's fresh, it's good to go. So let's start this thing up. I can't do this for very long because this car is super loud, and as you guys can see, I live in a townhouse complex. So I'm just gonna plop this right here. Listen to that beautiful side pipe. There we go. So much power that the GoPro fell over. Yeah, so I just wanted to start up and get the oil kind of flowing through there. Now what I'm gonna do is check my oil level. So I'll just give it a sec here. So I already pulled the stick out once. Just cleaned her off, and round 2 looks to be right about in the middle. Oh, look at, you can see all that stabilizer on there. It's pretty thick stuff. Once obviously the motor gets to operating temperature, it's all normal. But yeah, in like cold form, that stuff's pretty darn thick. So there we go, oil's changed on Miss Huff. Now let's install this rear seat. Oh yeah, drift taxi. So I think I'm gonna install like the seat belt first. I'm pretty sure it's been a little while since I reinstalled one of these seats. Usually I take them out. So I'm probably just gonna do the middle belt, that one right there, with this one, I believe. Yeah, that should be the 2. And then I'm going to put this little fold down center console thingy in the middle for, basically the idea is people are going to be sitting in the middle when they're drifting with me. There's only a seatbelt in the middle, so yeah, then just not a whole bunch on different sides of the car and stuff like that. Yeah, alright, let's do that. Okay, my GoPro died on me, so that's why I'm now wearing a different hat, and it's a little bit darker outside now. Yeah, so I installed this rear seat. That looks so cool in there. Oh, this is, I have a couple rear seats hanging around, and this one's like the blue cloth. Pretty interesting. It's like a kind of a teal now. It's kind of faded from the sun, but I don't know, that's gonna be cool. Probably next I'll put a couple holy shit handles up on each side for the passenger to grab onto. I'm really hoping Sean, the organizer of the event, lets me take people back here, because that would be so much fun. I don't know, it's gonna be cool. So yeah, there we go. Miss Huff's pretty much prepped. I even shined up the valve cover a little bit. Yeah, so it's got new oil in it. Everything's good to go. This car is like pretty much fully sorted, other than nothing. It's good to go. The e-brake works, blah blah blah. I actually did trailing arm bushings in this, and unfortunately I did film the whole thing, but my GoPro is set on no volume. It didn't have any sound pickup, so unfortunately it was a big waste of time because you couldn't even hear me. So, but yeah, the trailing arm bushings are really simple actually. The reason I did the trailing arm bushings in this car was because I'm hoping to cure that wheel hop issue that I was getting. It was actually kind of a shimmy, like the wheel was going back and forth this way. And if you look, we'll crawl into here real quick, but so there's the trailing arm bushing. You probably can't see shit. Right up there. So it's this bushing and it's attached to this whole arm. So that in theory that in theory should, you know, make it so the tire can't go back and forth like this. We'll see. It might also be those big rubber bushings like that clamp over the axle. But yeah, we'll have to see if this fixes it. Miss Huff wasn't the worst car I've ever had for wheel hop issues. A lot of the Volvos that I've had, when I put the spacers on the rear, I get really bad wheel hop. So I don't know. We'll see how it goes. So that's basically the video, guys. One more thing I wanted to mention, since I'm on the topic of oil. So everybody, let me know in the comments if you have one of these cars with an M46 transmission or an M47, what kind of oil do you guys run in that? Me personally, I've done a little bit of reading on this, and I've tried it. I've tried a bunch of different kinds of oil myself, so I've been able to kind of see how it feels when I put the different oil in it. But usually you're supposed to run ATF type F in these trannies. That's what the factory recommended, you know, weight is. The reason for that is because they have, the M46s at least have an electronic overdrive. So I guess for the overdrive cone clutch to work, they need fairly light oil. So most of the time when I have an M46, I don't actually have that overdrive hooked up. Therefore, I usually run 1030 or 1040 synthetic motor oil. I've actually read that on a couple places on Turbo Bricks, and I forget where I found it, actually on more of like a legit site that went into all the specifications of trans oils and engine oil for this car. But yeah, they said for extreme uses where temperatures aren't dropping below 0 degrees Celsius very often, you can run 1030 or 1040 and it's supposed to make your tranny shift smoother. I've kind of felt that, I guess. I ran a pretty good, yeah, like a Lucas 1030 in it, Lucas 1040. I guess it kind of made it shift smoother. Not a whole lot different, but yeah, I did notice a little bit of a difference with that. So I guess because, you know, especially if you're drifting it and that kind of thing, it's going to get a lot of heat buildup in the transmission. The oil is going to get a lot thinner. So ATF is pretty darn thin to begin with. So once you heat it right up, it's going to be like water basically. So yeah, just let me know in the comments what you guys think. If you have any more details you want to include about the motor oil for this car, what you guys run, what you found is the best. Yeah, let me know in the comments. So I'm hoping that this thing has, you know, with the Lucas oil stabilizer, it helps blow by as well. So that's a nice thing that happens as well, because these motors, once they get old, and if they've been turboed their whole life and people ran them on low octane gas and stuff like that, they can definitely get some piston slap. And I have had where you know, putting Lucas oil stabilizer in has actually quieted down the motor quite a bit. So yeah, that's kind of all I gotta say. So make sure to check out the Drifts and Lifts store if you want your Volvo Drift Ale shirts, Volvo Drift Pilsner, Volvo Drift Stout, and Lager. We got 4 different flavors. We got hats, hoodies, tank tops, all that kind of stuff. So the link to the Drifts and Lifts store is in the description of this video. Blah blah blah. I know I say this every time, but please buy my stuff. That's how we make the funds for more Volvo parts. So anyways, guys, yeah, lots of Volvo Drift stuff to come, so stay tuned. Like and subscribe for sweaty Volvo testicles. Peace out.